The ground shook one last time before silence fell. Zayla could feel the weight of the world pressing down on her. Literally. She was buried alive beneath layers of stone and soil, sealed inside a small chamber carved deep into the earth. Her wrists were bound with glowing cuffs that hummed softly, ancient tech designed to suppress psychic energy. Her people had once built wonders among the stars. Now, they used their fading knowledge to bury the gifted alive. She tried to scream, again, but no sound came out. Dust filled her lungs. Her body ached from hours, maybe days, of struggle. There was no light, only darkness thick as oil. And there was no hope. They had called it an honor. "Your gift will save us," her mother had whispered through tears. "You are chosen. Chosen to die." Zayla's kind believed in the god below, a being so old and powerful that even the stars feared it. According to legend, the god slept beneath the crust of their planet, kept at rest by the blood of the gifted. Every few generations, a psychic child was selected and offered to the dark. Zayla was this cycle's sacrifice. Her powers had always been strong. As a child, she could hear thoughts across the room. By 10, she could send dreams to others. At 16, she could speak without speaking, feel pain not her own, and see flashes of what might come. That was why they chose her. And now, here she lay, alone, forgotten, dying. She closed her eyes and let the cold press against her skin. She stopped fighting. She stopped breathing deeply. She waited for the end. But then, a noise. Faint, almost too quiet to notice. A vibration not from the earth but above it. Zayla opened her eyes, if that was even possible in the pitch black, but focused her mind upward. What is that? It wasn't a quake. It wasn't the god stirring. This was something else. Something new. Above the grave where she lay trapped, metal touched soil. Scrape, thud, buzz. A strange machine was digging. Zayla tried to cry out, but her throat was dry. Her voice cracked in her chest. Still, she pushed her thoughts outward, reaching for whoever, or whatever, was up there. "Help me." Nothing. She tried again. "Please. I'm still alive." Still nothing. Whoever it was didn't understand her language. Or maybe they didn't believe anyone could be alive under all this rock. Despair crept back in. Then, a voice. Not in the air. Not in her ears. In her mind. "Hello?" Zayla's heart jumped. "Can you hear me?" She didn't know how, but she sent her reply straight into the void. "Yes, yes, I can hear you." The voice paused. Then came again. Stronger. "Where are you? What happened?" Zayla tried to answer, but her thoughts were weak. Fear, hunger, pain. It clouded everything. All she could manage was, "I'm buried. Please, help me." The voice grew sharp with urgency. "Hold on, I'm coming," that was all, but it was enough. Above her, the digging continued. Captain Jax Varel wiped sweat from his brow as he stared at the scanner screen. He was alone on this mission, dropped onto the uncharted world for a standard mineral survey. Routine. Boring. That's what Command said. But this wasn't routine. He sat cross-legged near the edge of a recent tremor site, scanning for energy, signatures. Most planets had some form of radiation or magnetic field. This one had something else. Anomalous pulses that felt alive. And now, after hours of poking around, he heard something. Not with his ears. With his mind. He'd trained for telepathic interference during space travel. Some species communicated mentally. But this was different. This was desperate. Jax stood up slowly, looking around. His suit's sensors picked up faint vibrations below the surface, like someone was moving, struggling underground. He crouched and tapped his scanner. "Life signs?" he muttered. The screen flickered. "Negative." "No life detected," the AI confirmed. Jax frowned. "Then what the hell am I hearing?" He looked at the ground again. There was something down there. and it was trying to reach him. Without thinking, he grabbed a hand drill from his gear and began digging. "Hold on," he whispered, more to himself than anything. "I'm coming." The drill bit into the soil. Dust rose like smoke, and somewhere far below a girl stirred. Hope, long buried, began to rise. The sound of digging grew louder. Zayla felt every vibration like a heartbeat. Each scoop of dirt, each scrape of metal against stone. It was real. Someone was coming for her. She tried to call out again, but her voice had long since vanished. Her throat was dry, cracked from thirst, her body weak from hunger and pain. Still, she reached out with her mind. "Please. Hurry." Above her, Jax Varel wiped sweat from his brow. He'd been digging manually for over an hour, using nothing but a hand drill and sheer stubbornness. His scanner still showed no life signs, but he knew someone was down there. He could hear them in his thoughts. It wasn't speech exactly. It was more like feelings: fear, hope, pain. A silent cry echoing through his brain. "Almost there," he muttered between breaths. "Just hang on." Jax paused to catch his breath and tapped his comm. "Earth Command, this is Captain Jax Varel. I've got possible life signs buried under the surface. Requesting backup. Static. Again." He frowned. "Great. Still no signal." The interference from the planet's core had knocked out all long-range comms. He was alone. But he didn't stop. Back to work. Flashback. Zayla remembered the day they took her. She had stood before the elders, dressed in white robes, her hands tied with glowing chains. The crowd had watched in silence, some crying, others staring blankly. They believed she would save them. She knew the truth. Their god wasn't a god at all. She had seen it once, in a dream, or maybe a memory passed down through blood. A great shape beneath the ground, vast and sleeping. It pulsed with power older than stars, and every time they fed it a psychic child, it stirred. Zayla had begged not for her life, but for the truth to be told. But the elders silenced her. Then came the tunnel. A narrow path carved into the earth lined with glowing symbols that hurt her mind. They pushed her forward until she reached the chamber, a tomb built just for her. The door sealed. Darkness fell, and she waited to die. Now, after what felt like forever, she felt something else. Hope. The tapping above her grew stronger, closer. Then, a voice in her head again. "I can hear you." Zayla sent back, "I'm alive, please help me." "How deep are you?" She tried to answer, but her thoughts were foggy. Pain, fear, and exhaustion clouded her mind. Instead, she focused on sending him a picture, an image formed from thought and emotion. A small room. Stone walls. Glowing cuffs around her wrists. Darkness pressing in. Jack saw it clearly. His eyes widened. "What the hell?" he whispered. He hadn't just heard her. He'd seen her. "You're psychic," he said aloud, mostly to himself. He kept digging. The deeper he went, the heavier the air became. The soil turned cold and wet. Strange lights flickered on his scanner. Energy pulses that didn't match anything he'd seen before. Something was down here with her, and it didn't want to be found. Hours passed. Jax's arms ached. His suit was covered in dust and sweat. He paused to drink from his water pack, then looked at the hole he'd made. It was deep now, nearly 10 meters, and getting dangerous. A sudden shift in the ground nearly collapsed the tunnel on top of him. He barely dodged the falling rocks. "Damn. He coughed. "This thing could kill me." But he didn't stop. He couldn't. That voice in his head, soft, scared, fading, kept him going. Zayla felt the next tremor, not from the god below, from above. Someone was still digging. Her heart beat faster. She tried to reach out again. "You're close. Keep going." Jax heard her and grinned despite the pain. "I'm almost there." He hit metal, not rock. Something else. A barrier. He brushed away the dirt and saw glowing lines etched into the surface. Not natural. Not modern tech either. Ancient, alien. This isn't just a grave, he muttered. It's a prison. He scanned the object. Energy field detected. High voltage. Deadly. Jax stepped back. If he touched it without disabling the power source, he'd fry himself. He looked up the tunnel. He needed tools, better ones. He tapped his comm again. Command, if you're hearing this, I need support. I found something big, something wrong. More static. He sighed. Alone. Again. But Zayla was still alive, and he wasn't leaving without her. Above, the sky darkened. Storm clouds gathered. Lightning danced across the horizon. Below, in the dark, 2 lives were about to change forever. One waiting to die, one refusing to let her. The glowing barrier pulsed like a heartbeat. Jax stared at it through the dust-filled tunnel. His fingers hovered over his scanner, trying to decode the alien tech. It was old. Older than anything he'd seen before. The symbols etched into the metal weren't just decoration. They were warnings. He tapped the side of his helmet. Zayla, he called out in his mind. What is this thing? From below, Zayla stirred. She felt his thoughts like a soft breeze in a storm. He was close now, so close. But danger surrounded them both. Her voice came weak, but clear. It's a seal. A prison. Waljax frowned. A prison? Who built this? Not who. What? The words hit him like a punch. Before he could ask more, the ground shook again. Not a normal tremor. This one was different. Deeper. Like something beneath the planet was waking up. Flashback. Zayla remembered the first time she heard it. She had been just a child playing near the temple ruins. Her mind had always been open, sensitive to things others couldn't feel. That day she had fallen asleep under the stars and dreamed, not her dream, but its dream. Darkness, hunger, power beyond thought, and a voice that whispered, I am below. I remember. When she woke up, she screamed for days. The elders said she was blessed, but she knew the truth. They weren't worshiping a god. They were feeding one. Back in the tunnel, Jax felt the shift in air pressure. Something was coming awake. He looked at the sealed door again. Tell me what you know, he sent with his thoughts. Long ago, my people found this place. They thought it was holy ground. But they didn't understand what slept here. A being from before our stars were born. It was trapped by an ancient race, locked away beneath the crust. My kind. We became its jailers. Zayla's thoughts grew heavier, but we forgot why. We turned it into ritual. Every generation we bury one of the gifted alive to keep it sleeping, to feed it power without letting it wake. I was chosen because my gift is strong. Jax swallowed hard. So you're not just a sacrifice, you're part of the lock. Yes, and if I break the seal, then the balance will be broken. If it wakes fully, nothing on this world will survive. Silence stretched between them. Jax looked at the glowing lines again. He wasn't trained for this. He was just a surveyor, an explorer, not a hero. But he couldn't leave her. Not now. Not ever. I'm getting you out, he said firmly. We'll find another way. You don't understand. I do, he cut in, but I won't let someone die when I can save them. Above them, thunder cracked across the sky. Lightning struck the ground nearby. The quake shook the tunnel harder this time. Rocks fell behind Jax, sealing off the exit. He was stuck, trapped halfway between life and death. Inside the chamber, Zayla felt the change. The entity beneath them stirred again, stronger this time. Its presence pressed against her mind like a heavy weight. It knows you're here, she warned. Jax wiped sweat from his brow. Great. Just great. He pulled out a small energy cutter from his pack. I've got one shot at this, he muttered. He aimed at the edge of the barrier, where the glow was weakest. Zayla reached out again. If you break it fully, it might escape completely. You must Only weaken it enough for me to slip free. Then we can reseal it from the outside. Jax nodded. Got it. Half open, got to be careful. He activated the cutter. The beam hissed against the alien metal. The glow flickered, then pulsed violently. A deep sound echoed from below, a growl not made of air or voice, but of thoughts. Anger. Hunger. Awakening. Jax gritted his teeth. Come on, come on. The cutter moved slowly, slicing through the seal like cutting ice with fire. Crack the glow dimmed. Zayla gasped in her mind. Now! It's loose enough. Jax dropped the tool and grabbed the edge of the opening. He pulled. The door groaned, then shifted. Just enough. Inside, Zayla struggled against her bonds. She pushed with her body and pulled with her mind. The cuff sparked, then snapped. She was free, but the whole chamber began to shake. It knows, Zayla screamed in their shared thoughts. It knows. We're trying to escape, Jax reached inside. Grab my hand. Zayla crawled forward, her limbs trembling. She reached out. Fingers touched. Human and alien. Life and hope. Escape and danger. At that moment, the entire tunnel roared. A shockwave burst upward. Dust exploded around them. The prison shuddered, and far, below in the deepest dark, the entity opened one eye. The tunnel was collapsing. Jax pulled Zayla into his arms just as a shockwave blasted through the chamber. The ancient prison groaned like a beast waking from sleep. Dust and fire shot up the narrow path they had come from. Above them, the planet cracked open. Outside, the sky turned red with ash and storm. Lightning danced across the horizon like wild spirits. Entire sections of land were falling into the earth, swallowed by deep, jagged wounds in the ground. Zayla coughed weakly in Jax's arms. Her body was trembling, her skin pale from days without food or light. She had been buried alive for what felt like forever. Now she was free, but not safe. Not yet. We've got to move, Jax said, tightening his grip on her. It knows we are. Here, Zayla sent through their shared thoughts. And it is angry. Jax looked around the shaking tunnel. His only way out was blocked by rubble. But there was another path, one that led deeper into the underground ruins. He didn't want to go. Down, but he had no choice. Can you walk? He asked aloud. Zayla blinked, trying to focus. Yes, I think so. They stood together, leaning on each other for support. The walls trembled. Strange symbols glowed brighter along the stone, reacting to the awakening force below. Jax led, the way down the dark passage, keeping one arm around Zayla and the other holding his scanner. This place is ancient, he muttered, but it's still active. This was once our greatest temple, Zayla explained mentally. Before we forgot the truth. Before we became afraid. They reached a large chamber filled with broken statues and shattered pillars. In the center stood a massive door covered in glowing runes. It pulsed with energy. Behind them, the tunnel collapsed completely. No going back. As they moved forward, flashbacks returned to Zayla like waves crashing against her mind. She remembered how her people once ruled the stars. Tall cities made of crystal and light, ships that flew between planets without fuel, minds connected across space like threads in a great tapestry. Then came the fall. A war none of them remembered, an enemy they never knew. And at the heart of it all, the entity beneath the world. Her ancestors fled to this planet thinking it safe. They found the prison and believed it holy. Over time, knowledge faded. Myths replaced truth. They built rituals. They chose psychics as offerings to keep the god asleep. But now, thanks to Jax, the seal was broken, and something ancient was stirring. Back in the ruins, Jax helped Zayla climb over fallen stones. You, okay? He asked. She nodded slowly. I will be. He gave her a small smile. Good. We're not done yet. Suddenly the air changed. It grew heavy, thick like fog. The lights flickered. Then the voice came. Not loud, but deep inside their minds. You have awakened me. Zayla gasped. It speaks. Jax gripped his scanner tighter. Can it hurt us? Not directly, but it can make us see things, feel things. It feeds on fear. Before Jax could respond, the chamber around them changed. The ruins vanished. In their place stood a city of light, towering buildings, floating platforms, alien ships flying overhead. Zayla's eyes widened. This is my home, before the fall. You remember? The voice whispered again. Jax looked around, confused. Is this real? No, Zayla warned. It's a memory, a trap. Suddenly figures appeared, people dressed in flowing robes, smiling. And reaching out, one stepped forward. It looked like Zayla's mother. Come back to us, the illusion said. Stay here. Forget the surface. Forget the pain. Zayla shook her head. No, this isn't real, but it could be, the voice replied. Forever. Jax grabbed her hand. Zayla, look at me. She met his eyes. I'm real, he said firmly. We're real. Don't let it take you. Zayla took a deep breath. Then with a cry, she slammed her hands together and focused all her psychic power outward. The illusion shattered like glass. They were back in the ruins. The voice screamed, not in sound, but in thought. Anger, frustration, hatred. You cannot stop me. Jax pulled Zayla forward. We don't have to stop it, just get out before it takes control. They ran, through crumbling halls and broken tunnels, past old murals showing the rise and fall of a forgotten civilization. And then, they saw others, figures trapped in cages of light, eyes wide, mouths open in silent screams. Zayla stopped. They're the others, she whispered. The ones who were sacrificed before me, still alive, still dreaming. Jax looked at them, horrified. How many are there? Dozens, maybe more. He clenched his fists. We're not leaving anyone behind. Zayla stared at him. Even if it slows us down? Even if it kills us? For the first time since being freed, Zayla smiled. She placed her hand on one of the glowing cages. With a pulse of psychic energy, the light broke. The person inside gasped, then fell to the floor. Alive. Jax nodded. Let's get them all out. As the ground shook and the ancient prison roared with rage, the two of them began freeing the forgotten, one by one. The rise had begun. Zayla sat on the cold metal floor of Jax's ship. Her body was tired, her mind still spinning from everything that had happened. Around her, other survivors rested, those they had freed from the underground prison. Some were too weak to speak. Others stared at the walls like they couldn't believe they were really free. Jax stood near the control panel, watching the sky. Outside darkened with storm clouds, he tapped his comm again. Earth Command, this is Captain Varel. I have multiple survivors and urgent data to report. Requesting emergency evac. Static, again. He sighed and turned to Zayla. Still no signal, he said. Whatever that thing below is, it's blocking all transmissions. Zayla looked up, slowly. She had wrapped a blanket around herself, but her eyes were sharp. It doesn't want us to warn anyone. She sent through their shared thoughts. It wants to stay hidden. Jax nodded. Yeah, makes sense. He walked over and sat beside her. You've been quiet since we got out, he said gently. You okay? Zayla looked at him. I keep hearing it, she admitted. Not just in my head, in my bones. It's not fully awake yet, but it remembers. Jax frowned. Remembers what? Everything. She closed her eyes. My people thought we built our cities here because this world was sacred, but we didn't choose this place, we were brought here. Long ago by the ones who trapped the entity beneath the ground. They made us its jailers, and then made us. Forget why. Jax listened carefully. So your whole history, your gods, your rituals, they were lies. Not lies, Zayla corrected, but not the full truth either. She reached for a small device on her wrist, one of the ancient cuffs that once bound her psychic power. This isn't just a prison tool, she explained. It's a key. a translator. My people use these to control psychics like me, but now that mine is broken, I can feel more than before. I can hear the old messages stored in the ruins. Jax leaned closer. Messages from who? From the ones who locked it away. She placed the broken cuff on the floor between them. A soft light flickered. Then symbols appeared in the air, glowing lines of alien text floating like stars. Jax blinked. That's new. These are instructions, Zayla said, reading quickly. They left warnings. If the seal breaks completely, the prison must be reactivated manually. From inside. Jax's stomach dropped. No way, he muttered. We're not going back down there. Zayla looked at him. If we don't, it will wake up fully. And when it does, it won't stop at this planet. Silence filled the cabin. Outside, lightning flashed across the sky. Inside, Jax rubbed his face. Let me get this straight, he said. You're telling me that thing under the ground isn't just some mythological god. It's an alien prisoner. And if it wakes up, it could destroy entire worlds? Yes. And the only way to stop it is to go back into that hellhole and fix the prison? Yes. Jax groaned and stood up. Well, that's just great. He paced for a moment, thinking. Then he stopped. How do we fix it? Zayla looked surprised. You'd go back? Jax gave her a tired smile. You think I'm just going to leave you to do it alone? You're not the only one who cares about saving lives, you know. Zayla's eyes softened. Thank you, she sent gently. Jax shrugged. Don't thank me yet. Let's see if we survive this first. He tapped the intercom. All right, everyone, listen up. We've got a mission. We need to find the core of that prison, the heart of the system. That means going back underground. Groans and nervous murmurs spread through the survivors. Jax raised his voice. I know it's scary. I know most of you just escaped that place, but if we don't do this, none of us are safe. Not on this world, not anywhere. He looked at Zayla. We'll lead the way. She stood slowly, her strength returning. Together, she sent. Together, Jax echoed aloud. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, hope burned bright, and deep beneath the surface, the ancient prisoner stirred, again, waiting, watching, remembering. Jax led the way with a glowing light strapped to his helmet. Behind him, Zayla followed closely, her steps slow but sure. They had come back to the ruins, not to escape this time, but to save everyone. Behind them were a few brave survivors carrying tools and old tech scavenged from Jax's ship. They were not soldiers, not scientists, just people who had been buried alive and now had a second chance. They had to make it count. The deeper they went, the heavier the air felt. It knows we are here, Zayla sent through their shared thoughts. And it is angry. Jax tightened his grip on the scanner. Yeah, I can feel it. The walls around them pulsed with faint light. The symbols carved into the stone glowed brighter, the farther they went. This place wasn't just ancient, it was alive. As they walked, memories returned to Zayla like waves crashing against her mind. She saw flashes of the past, her ancestors standing before the great prison, placing the first psychic child inside. She saw the fear in their eyes, not for themselves, but for what lay beneath. They had sealed the entity away because it was dangerous beyond reason. It was not a god. It was not even truly alive in the way they understood. It was power, raw, endless, hungry. Zayla shivered. We were never meant to stay here, she thought. We were meant to guard the prison, then leave. Jax glanced at her. You okay? She nodded slowly. Just remembering. He gave her a small smile. Then don't forget why we're here. She looked at him. For the first time since being freed, she didn't feel alone. They reached a large chamber. At its center stood a massive door covered in glowing runes. It pulsed with energy. Beyond that door was the core of the prison, the heart of the system that kept the entity trapped. Zayla stepped forward. This is it. Jax tapped his scanner. Energy levels are off the charts. Whatever's in there, it's not sleeping anymore. One of the survivors stepped up. How do we open it? Zayla placed her hand on the door. A soft hum filled the air. The symbols shifted. Then the door groaned and began to open. Inside was a cavern of light and shadow. A huge sphere floated in the middle of the space, spinning slowly. It was made of metal and crystal, pulsing with strange energy. That's the core, Zayla said. If we reactivate it, the prison will seal again. Jax looked at her. How? We need to manually input the code left by the builders, but it must be done from inside. Jax frowned. You mean someone has to go in there? Yes. Silence fell. Over the group. Then Jax stepped forward. I'll do it. Zayla grabbed his arm. No, I'm the one who can read the code. My mind is still linked to the prison. Jax shook his head. And if something goes wrong, I'm not letting you die. Zayla met his eyes. You don't get to decide that for me. Jax smiled softly. Maybe not, but I'm not letting you go. Alone. She stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. Together. They climbed onto a floating platform that carried them toward the core. The closer they got, the stronger the pull became. It's trying to stop us, Zayla warned. Suddenly the air twisted. Images formed in front of them. Nightmares made real. Jax saw himself falling through space, alone, screaming for help that never came. Zayla saw her people burning, swallowed by fire and darkness, their fears. The entity was using their own minds against them. Jax clenched his fists. No, he growled. Not today. He grabbed Zayla's hand. Focus on me, he said. Don't look at the illusions. Zayla took a deep breath. I trust you. Together they reached the core. Zayla pressed her hands against it. Her mind connected. Data flooded her thoughts. She saw the code. She saw the path. She saw the cost. Jax. What? He asked. I have to stay. To finish the lock. The core needs a psychic presence to hold it stable. Jax's eyes widened. No. There has to be another way. There isn't. Jax shook his head. I won't leave you. Zayla looked at him, tears forming in her eyes. You already saved me once, she sent gently. Now let me save everyone else. Before he could stop her, she jumped into the core. Light exploded around them. The prison roared. The ground shook, and Zayla was gone. The light faded. Jax stood alone on the floating platform, staring at the core where Zayla had vanished. His heart pounded like thunder. No, he whispered. No, no, no. The prison around him began to stabilize. The glowing symbols grew steady. The deep growling from below quieted. Zayla had done it. She had sealed the entity again. But she was gone. Or so he thought. Back on the surface, the storm broke. Rain poured across the cracked land. Lightning lit up the sky. The survivors who had stayed above watched in silence as the ruins beneath them fell still for the first time in centuries. One of them tapped Jax's ship comm. Captain? What happened? Did it work? Jax didn't answer. He couldn't. He just stood there, hands shaking, heart broken. Then, a soft voice in his mind. Jax. He blinked. I'm here. It was her. Zayla. Not fully in body, but not gone either. The core accepted me, she sent gently. My mind is linked to the prison now. I am its new keeper, but I can still hear you. I can still speak. Jax closed his eyes. Relief hit him like a wave. You idiot, he muttered with a shaky laugh. You scared me. I had to do it, she replied, but I didn't leave you behind. He looked at the core one last time. I'll come back for you, he promised. I don't care how long it takes, I'll find a way to bring you home. Zayla's presence in his mind warmed like sunlight. I know you will. Days passed. Jax returned to orbit in his ship, carrying the survivors and the full record of what had happened below. He broadcast everything to Earth Command. The truth about the ancient prisoner. The lies Zayla's people had believed. the sacrifices that had been made, and the girl who gave herself to save everyone. Across the galaxy, scientists, historians, and explorers listened, and they acted. New missions were launched to old ruins. Forgotten myths were re-examined. Worlds that once worshipped gods found out they had been guarding prisoners instead. Thanks to Zayla and Jax, the truth was finally free. On the surface of the planet, life began to change. Survivors built a new city, not on top of the prison this time, but far away. They honored those who had been buried alive, remembering them not as offerings but as victims. They remembered Zayla. Her name became a symbol of courage, of freedom, of hope. At the edge of the new settlement, a stone stood tall. Engraved on it were only a few words: Zayla of the Light. She chose to save us all. In space aboard his ship, Jack stared out the window at the stars. He wore a small pendant around his neck, a piece of Zayla's broken cuff, now glowing faintly. Sometimes, late at night, he could feel her near. "Are you still there?" He would ask in his thoughts. "Always," came the reply. He smiled. He wasn't alone. She wasn't gone. She was just waiting. And somewhere in the vast dark of space, a new mission called to him, to find a way to reach her, to bring her home. Jax Varel turned, the ship toward the stars, and flew forward, toward tomorrow.